Welcome to the Surf Strong Show, conversations for a healthy community. I'm your host, Greg Finch. I'd like to remind you to like, comment, subscribe to this and all of our episodes of the Surf Strong Show wherever you get your podcasts. For all show notes and links that we talk about in the episodes, videos of the podcast, you can go to surfstrongfit.com/podcast for this and all the past episodes. Thanks for joining us. It really means a lot. Welcome to the first episode we are doing of the Surf Strong Express Show. I'm going to do periodic 20, 30-minute quick little takes on what's going on, what's on my mind, answer some questions from you guys, and just talk about surfing, the surf community, and anything else that's going on. So like I said, this is going to be kind of short, 20, 30 minutes, so let's kind of jump right to it. First thing is, I got to surf today for the first time in a couple weeks, way too long. And it just reminded me, it was okay. It was offshore, kind of small, but it just always reminds me every time I get back in the water that you just have to paddle out. You just have to paddle out. There's always going to be reasons that keep you out of the water, but a lot of them are of our own making. We either are prioritizing something or not prioritizing surfing enough. And the act of surfing really is just about making everything else in our life work better. Because it's one of those things that I'm just a better version of myself when I get to go paddle. And so I'm reminding myself of that too. We're in the throes of this kitchen remodel, and there's all this stuff that's really is happening that I need to get to, but I can take 40 minutes and go and paddle and clean my carburetor out, and I'm just going to have a better day, and I'm just going to have a better week. So do that. Make that a mantra for yourself. Make sure that you are getting out and getting contact with the ocean and getting that exercise and paddling. It just makes everything better. So I'm going to jump into a couple questions from people that submitted prior to, and I'll post this right here live to everybody. Feel free to comment, and you can comment on our Facebook page, and I will be able to see that real time. So you can go to facebook.com/surfstrongfit and submit questions live. For those that are listening to this later, we will do these episodes in the future. So I'll try to make announcements, pre-announcements. This one I just kind of jumped on today, but I'll try to make pre-announcements that you can listen live, watch live, and submit questions live. So you can go there and submit your questions. So let's get to the first one from somebody that I think it was Chuck. Yep, Chuck basically asked, what do you suggest for a morning routine? So this is really broad, and it can be very dependent on what you are doing specifically or what you need to prioritize specifically. But I usually always break it down for myself and for clients to start very simply on what you're doing in your morning routine. And obviously there's various areas of morning routine. So what we're going to focus on is movement and fitness specific morning routine. So other things like meditation and breathing, those all, of course, incorporate into our overall needs and progression and things. But we're going to focus specifically on some movement here to keep it a little bit more straightforward. So one of the things I really stress to everybody is this idea of habit stacking. So our brains are very resistive to new things coming into our routine, and we'll tend to push back on a lot of that. So to have success, you want to start very simply, and you want to start very focused, and you want to stack it on top of something that you're already doing. So really easy examples are brushing our teeth, or whatever your morning drink is, coffee, tea, water, whatever it is. It tends to have a routine to it. And so what you're trying to add to that is a positive habit that's on top of something that you're already doing in routine and in rhythm. So like my morning coffee. I kind of nerd out on my coffee and I grind my own beans and I do this and I really just like the process of it. So as I'm doing that and getting that ready and the water's heating up, I go through this very straightforward morning routine. And it really consists of some rotational movement, just nice back and forth. I do them in numbers of 7 or 11. It's just kind of what I've sat on to find the nice number and nice rhythm within it. It's a little bit of rotational, some hip hinging, folding forward from that, straight legs, nice elongation through our back, through our hips, hamstrings, ankles. Just a way to kind of start that process there. Then I come back, do 3 of those because I hold it at 7 at the bottom, come back up, breathing all the way through, nasal diaphragmatic breathing, just becoming present, becoming focused in what you're going to do in that next few minutes for your body, for yourself. So 3 hip hinge, straight leg bends, come back up, get that process in, go back down in and go into a down dog, hold that for 7 seconds. Again, focusing on breath all the way through, trying to identify where you're tight, where you have some tension, and take notes of those things to give it some extra attention, either throughout your day or right in the moment right then. You're doing as much to in the act of it itself as you are in identifying things that might need a little bit more attention. After I do that down dog, I go down into a push-up position and I do 25 push-ups. And it sounds small, but what really helps is building from that. Okay, 25 isn't a huge amount of push-ups, but in succession, that might be too many for you to start out from. So start with 5 or 10 or 15, whatever feels like you're pushing to just to that fatigue point. Again, this isn't really about getting to our ultimate push where we're really trying to gain strength from it. It's just about routine and really positive, consistent morning ritual that you're adding to it. And it's a small thing too, but I count them in repetitions of 5. So if you're counting 1 to 25, your mind holds that in a certain way. And for myself, I like to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, and all the way up to 25. I found it's just that little mental trick helps me do more with good form. After I do that, I go back up into a down dog again and hold that for a 7-second count. Walk myself back up. And then as I'm still into that hip hinge bend, I come down into a slightly pronated or your toes slightly out 5 to 7 degrees into a deep squat hold. And I hold that for 7 seconds, breathing all the way through and kind of coming full circle back into that idea of that. Come back up to the top. And about that time, my coffee's ready to go enjoy. And then I go out onto my deck and at least sit out there, unless the weather's really terrible, sit out there and try to get some natural light. That simple routine like that, you make it your own. There's certain pieces in there that you want to focus on. I find the push-ups done consistently, day to day to day, really helps you maintain and bridge through the times that you're not able to surf or you're not getting as much movement and output. So for instance, again, I surfed today. It's been the first time I've surfed in probably about 14, 15 days, way too long. But I was doing those push-ups, minimum of those 50 push-ups every morning. And most of those days I'm getting push-ups later in the afternoon, if not an actual strength routine. That little bit throughout that day makes all the difference. So when I went and paddled today, it wasn't big. It wasn't a really long session. We were out for about 45 minutes, but I paddled strong. I didn't feel like it was completely depleted. And that's a huge positive boost for you when you get back to your surfing and you can feel really good about it. You might not surf as great as you want to or as good as you could if you were really surfing in consecutive days. Of course, it's all about the practice of it and the routine of that, but you have the resources to be able to paddle and to be able to surf when those schedules and everything lines up. So pulling it back all the way around to the question, what do you suggest for a morning routine? The short answer is anything that you can do every morning consistently for the next 3 weeks. So keep it simple, keep it short, bring that habit along, bring your mind along so it doesn't resist that change for you. And then you can grow from that, grow into more push ups, grow into a longer mobility routine. But don't start out too exaggerated or too much, or you won't stay consistent with it. Okay, great question. Second question is from Tim, and it's, my back is acting up while surfing. What do you suggest? So, first thing I would say about it is there's a big difference between chronic lower back discomfort that might come from some postural things and some misalignment, and something that's a little bit more acute. So, I just want to make sure to distinguish between those two things. So, what we're going to do is we're going to assume that it's a little bit more of a chronic issue. And because the acute, of course, is other professionals and other doctors with diagnosis coming in to find out what's really going on, maybe underneath in a more structural vertebrae, anything structural below that. So when we're talking something that's a chronic ache or pain in your low back, one thing I always make sure that I really convey to surfers is that the primary places that we feel that discomfort and we feel those aches and pains either while we're surfing or post a surf session, low back, cervical spine or neck, shoulders, a lot of times those areas are the manifestation of other misalignment or other areas that have some weakness or some overcompensation, and we're feeling it in those areas. So for instance, back to the low back discomfort and pain, again, in a chronic setting, a lot of times comes in a tight mid back or T-spine, thoracic spine, and a tight or misaligned in our hips. Those two areas, the closest place that you're going to feel that and it's going to manifest there is that lumbar spine or low back. Same thing with the T-spine coming up into where we feel it in our neck. A lot of times it's that discomfort and tightness coming from here. So a lack of mobility in our thoracic spine a lot of times will come up and will show in our neck. Now, it doesn't mean there isn't something specifically going on within the neck, but if we only are addressing where we're feeling the ache and the pain, we're really missing a lot of the opportunity to have a much more effective, aligned posture in which to have a strong foundation that we're going to be building on from that. So everything is about having that strong foundation. So if you listen to my previous episode with Dr. Tim Brown, he talks about this a lot. And he talks about that idea of our joints kind of being stacked on top of each other. So for us as surfers, those primary places are ankles, hips, and T-spine. Those three areas, when we are misaligned and have lack of mobility in those areas, that is going to radiate into these other chronic areas that we have discomfort and pain. So that's kind of the underlying understanding of that. So what I would suggest to those of you that are having discomfort and pain in your lower back is to make sure that you're giving attention to your hips and the mobility of that. A lot of us are really tight in our hips, and it comes from countless reasons. One of the main reasons is we tend to have to sit a lot, and we are not made and have not evolved to sit effectively. We tend to lock up when we're in that sitting position. So when you're seated, your glute muscles or your butt muscles, they tend to relax. And when they relax, to kind of stay in that seated position, your hip flexors or those muscles right in the front of your hips, they will tend to lock in. and you are really contracting those muscles the whole time you're sitting. You don't really feel them that way, but they're doing that, and that will exacerbate the lack of hip mobility and tightness within our hips. And then that tightness will tend to radiate kind of up and down. So tightness in our hips is going to perpetuate tightness in our hamstrings. Tightness in our hamstrings is going to perpetuate tightness in our Achilles tendon down through our ankle line and into our foot. And those are just going to keep going back and forth and reinforcing that tightness. So as Dr. Tim Brown talks about in that episode, he really talks about this idea of the circle. I just call it the Surf Strong circle of fit. And it all comes from him. And really, he talks about thinking about alignment first. So alignment is everything that we're looking to keep ourselves in that balanced place. So our movement comes from alignment. Once you kind of identify alignment, or more importantly, misalignment, and you're working to kind of get back to alignment as your priority, alignment moves into breath. Breath is what allows us to not only drive our engines and also recover, but we're looking to make sure that we're staying focused in the moment, and staying within your breath is a great way to do that. Always thinking about nasal inhalation, using your diaphragm, diaphragmatic breathing whenever possible. Check into your breath that way. So alignment, breath goes into mobility. There's that focus of making sure that that stacking of your joints in those primary places for us, ankle line, hip, T-spine or thoracic spine, we're looking to increase mobility, and that will then put us in a place where we can be in a proper alignment, focusing on our breath. Our mobility is increasing. Mobility then is going to sit on stability. So that stability is allowing us to improve our balance, improve our postural motion as we're going through something like in our surfing that is multiplanar, has all of these influences coming on. The waves moving, winds going, water's moving there, your board's moving, your body's moving. All of these circles are moving, and we need to line them up to surf well and to keep our stability and keep our balance. It's all moving into those things. Again, alignment goes into breath. Breath moves into mobility. Mobility moves into stability. And last but not least is strength. Strength is important. It's what allows us, of course, to do all of the activities that we're looking to do. It allows us to surf. It allows our motion. It allows us to able to endure through all the things that we're doing. But if strength is sitting on misalignment back up to the top, because strength moves right back into alignment as a continuous circle. If strength is sitting on misalignment, it's going to push us into more of our tendencies. That misalignment is going to increase our risk of injury. It's going to increase the load in those joints that are going to take the brunt. That's what they're designed for. They are shock absorbers. So if we are working back into that alignment, our strength is going to push us back into this nice aligned place, and it's going to reduce the load that has to be in those areas and in those joints. So proper alignment is going to reduce the load in your cervical spine, in your neck, because your head is sitting proper over your shoulders. It's going to reduce the load in our lumbar spine because our T-spine has a lot of nice mobility through it, and it lets our strength move through that plane how we need it to do. Our hips and nice mobility is allowing that strength to move down that posterior chain of muscles from Achilles, hamstring, glute, all moving in a line through there. Anytime we have tightness and we have misalignment, the load in those areas increases, our performance reduces, and so it's always looking back to that. So back to very specific things to do for your low back is that what we talked about in the previous question about morning routine, that idea of hip hinging, being able to move in from your hips down, flat through your back, elongated through your hamstrings, nice down through, is allowing that elongation of that posterior chain of muscles, again, hamstring, glutes, down into your calf, down into your Achilles, is allowing you to move through there. It's allowing your hips to move in that motion. And then other ideas of hip mobility, sitting on your back, basically crossing your legs 90-90 over while laying on your back is allowing your hip to open up one side. Hold that with posture, looking through breath. If you go on my website and you just go to surfstrongfit.com/blog, I have a list of a bunch of different motions and different exercises that you can implement in this idea of mobility. Kind of search around through there. I have static back. That is great for alignment. It's also great for mobility just by allowing us to relax. There's very few times in our life that areas like low back or even T-spine or up into your neck and your cervical spine that we actually get to relax in a posture that is not pushing us into a passive state of posture that's putting more load into your spine or your hips or your neck. If you're in static back, which is essentially just laying on your back, knees elevated 90 degrees, so on an ottoman or a couch, and then I added that 90-90 in my arms open up, laying back with my arms open 90 degrees, almost like a field goal post, is allowing you to externally rotate through your shoulders, but your head is supported, your thoracic spine, your hips, they're all supported. And there will be times where you literally will feel the decompression on your spine. And you'll notice how much you actually are holding in tension throughout your day. So if you start your day in that idea of static back, I end my day in static back. It's a great time to relax and focus. It's also a great time to focus on your breathing at the same time. So they come, it's just a break. It's a break of all the things that you have going on. And you take 3 to 5 minutes and you hold yourself into that, for that committing for that time. And then you can relax into that posture. It makes a huge difference. Again, the small things done consistently can have huge impacts. And I'm relearning that over and over all the time. It's something that we just are always working on to come back to the basics, done consistently, and you will have positive progression. So focus on the small things and you will be able to improve. Okay, great question. So let's see. I got one more here. This one didn't have a name on it. So let's see. Just basically is talking about shoulder. So I'm just going to write this down. Basically just say shoulder pain. It was a longer question that I don't have to go time to go all the way in. So we'll just talk about shoulder pain a little bit. So this is something I know a lot about, unfortunately. Some of it, I've told this story before, so I'm just going to give a really short talk about it. But basically, when I was 25, this is what really spurred me into becoming a coach and a surf coach specifically. At 25, I was surfing all the time. I was living in San Diego. I was able to surf multiple sessions a day, multiple hours. I was playing volleyball, going to school. And one day I woke up and I couldn't lift my left arm. Basically, it was pinned to my side and it scared the crap out of me. And very fortunately, very quickly, I was able to find out. I got into a doctor and I got into somebody very quickly that said, you're in overuse. You have a lot of inflammation. You don't have any specific acute damage. There might be some smaller damage in there, and we can do an MRI if you want, and on and on and on. But basically, I knew right away that it wasn't something catastrophic and major. So that really spurred me into, again, a daily routine. And I have to do it every day. Some small version of what I'm going to describe right here, which is going back to what I just talked about, static back. Our lives take us forward and internally rotating a lot. Computer work, driving, reading, being down on our phones. Our attention is all down and in. and your body basically follows your eyes. So when you're looking down, you're putting extra pressure up into your neckline. So our heads on average are 13 to 15 pounds. That 13 to 15 pounds, when it's turned forward and dropped forward, that's all up into your cervical spine and your neck. What will tend to happen then too is because our hands are in, again, either reading on a phone or being on a computer where our work is down on a mouse, we're internally rotating through our shoulders. That internal rotation again is going to exaggerate you pushing your chin out because you have to see what you're doing. It again puts more pressure on your cervical spine. So it's just a spiral back and forth. So that idea of static back is, yes, decompression of your spine for sure, and into your lumbar spine and your lower back. But it's also a great way to really reset external rotation in your shoulders, alignment in your head through your cervical spine and your shoulders and down into your T-spine. It's resetting those things for you. And that is a huge, huge factor. You've seen people in your life or know people in your life that are up demographic in their age, and they have severe internal rotation and their spine has that bend to it. That didn't happen overnight. That happens day to week to month to year. And it's your job to reset yourself in that posture of neutral spine, neutral cervical spine, external rotation in your shoulders. And for us as surfers, it really ups the game because when we're in our activity, we are prone and paddling and driving through our arms and our shoulders. And we tend to be really exaggerating that posture there. So it's putting that lumbar spine in your low back. You're really kind of cranking into that because you kind of have to hold your torso up. And then we're driving in our shoulders. And when we're paddling for a wave, we're really driving down and leveraging our weight to get into that wave. So it's all those things is putting more load on low back, shoulders, neck. So a lot of the action has to come back to this idea of reset. And it's this whole theme of this Express show today really is coming back to resetting. You have to reset what is in the idea of quote unquote neutral. There is no such thing really. But if you think of it that way, is all the wear that we just put on ourselves by internally rotating and driving and computer and sitting and all these things, we're working to try to get back to a neutral state that allows us then to really improve what we're doing in that alignment, breath, mobility, stability, and strength. So coming back to that idea to reset. So the number one thing I do for my shoulder pain is static back with my arms in that 90-90, almost like a field goal post. So that's the start. The next thing that I do is always making sure that I'm doing an external rotation for my shoulder. So you're basically standing in posture, 90 degrees with your arm, your elbows tucked at your side. What I like to do is to take a towel, roll a towel up, put it right against my side, pull my elbow to that side, and that 90 degrees is starting inside my body line. And then I have a small resistance, tends to be an elastic band. If you don't have an elastic band, you can lay on your side. So your hand is facing towards the floor and you're leveraging gravity and a small weight in your hand, literally a small weight, like 3 pounds, maybe 5 pounds. But even for a lot of people, that will be too much. So low weight. And then that 90 degrees is externally rotating that in a full 90 degrees. So you're coming off your body line. So if you're laying on your side, you're using gravity, you're coming outside your body line. You're going to feel that external rotation. It's going to go right into that component of your shoulder, that rotator cuff feeling within your shoulder. And you are working to increase mobility there. You're isolating some strength work in there, but a lot of it you have to think about more about alignment, mobility, and really counteracting that, again, external rotation of your shoulder. So I'll do a form of that every day. And I'll do a form of that definitely before I'm surfing, because that idea of kind of warming your shoulder up before you really are driving. If it's pumping out and you hit the water line and don't give yourself any prep for that, you're going from 0 to 60 in 10 seconds. And you are just going to be driving, and you're going to be putting a lot of strain on your shoulders that aren't quite ready for that level of activity. You can't just kind of sequence into it. If it's pumping, you're going to be paddling your butt off. So prep for it. So that's the second thing that at this point, the third thing that I always focus on for my shoulder pain is before every surf session, I am taking about 5 to 7 minutes and I go through a whole routine that is not super involved. It's very functional and very easy to implement if you do it. The trick is that once you get down on the beach line, a lot of people are not going to do it. They see the surf, it's pumping, boom, they hit the water. So you have to commit yourself to doing that. Some tricks for that is do it before you get to the beach. If you live fortunate enough to live close enough to the beach where it's just a short little drive before you're going to surf, do it before you leave the house. Sometimes if you're not looking at it yet, you'll be more apt to do it every time. And that's the level of commitment it takes. Again, they're small things done consistently can have huge impacts. So I just call it my surf ramp, surf readiness and movement prep. That's also on my website. You can find that when you just go to surfstrongfit.com/blog and search for ramp, and it will pop up. And it's about 5 to 7 minutes. Has some shoulder activity. It has some hip activity. It also activates through some of your balance prior to getting out in the water, which can be huge. So it's essentially just a tree pose of yoga, standing on the beach on the sand. You are activating your balance. You are also activating what we just call proprioception. So those senses through your feet, for this specifically, most proprioception you're feeling through your skin and through your nerves. Some of it comes through your eyes, but a majority of it comes through skin and contact. So for instance, this is the bottom of your feet. So when you're in that single leg tree pose in yoga, you are activating your stability and your balance at that place and how it's interacting with your brain. And that proprioception becomes huge. So how many times have you paddled out where a set wave comes right to you, right when you get in the water, and you turn on it? And this happens to me on occasion. If I haven't prepped for that, I'm not going to be in my best place to get to my feet and pump down the line on that. If I've taken that little bit of time to prep and I've really activated my stability and my balance, I'm going to be in a much better place to surf that first wave well. So it just takes a small little thing. Again, it's that commitment, it's that time, small amounts of time to make sure that you can stay consistent and have that be the positive progression. And this is a theme throughout a lot of the things that I work with on clients. Clients will have a specific question. They'll be dealing with a specific need, and it seems very large, something they're trying to overcome. And you have to break it down into small, incremental ways that you can progress, because you're going to reinforce the positive that way. You're going to make sure that you are making small steps towards something. And before you know it, you have reached that place where you've made a real positive change in whatever you're dealing with. But if you're looking only at that thing hanging over you that you're dealing with, whether it's an injury or a performance issue in your surfing, you have to break it down into small, incremental, daily routines that will really help you improve over the long term. And the key about that is here's this word again, it makes it much easier to stay consistent. Your body's a machine, right? So it will just do. And it will get to a place where if you're overusing it, something's going to break on it. That machine needs to be cared for. It needs to have that maintenance. What you're really doing is working within your mind and bringing these changes along, so your mind is not resisting these changes to the point where it's evolved to, I'm going to oversimplify here, but this is an important idea to kind of internalize. Your brain has evolved to a place where it only wants you to reduce risk and to conserve calories. Now, again, that's an overgeneralization, but it's pretty accurate. It wants you to reduce risk. So sit on the couch. It wants you to conserve calories, eat sugar, salts, and fats, and don't utilize energy unless you absolutely have to. That is the most basic way that you can pass your genes on. Now, it has no idea the abundance of calories that we have available to us. And that's only successful on the very, very, very short term. You can't sit on your couch for the next 3 years and expect to be able to perform at a healthy level, not even your surfing, just in your life. So it's those small daily routines that really help you bridge between your surf sessions. If life gets crazy and you're not able to be hitting your movement and hitting your breath and hitting your mobility like you want to, like you have your plan to execute, those small little incremental routines that you have are going to help you bridge that gap. So I'm going to end on this right here, which is, I get this question a lot. This wasn't a specific submitted question, but I get this question a lot, whether I'm out or out. People find out what I do and they ask me, well, what should I do? What's my program? What should I do? And of course, that's a fairly involved answer. And it all depends on what we are. We're all individuals and we're all looking to make sure that we're dealing with any underlying issues that we have and manage those things first. But I'm going to give you a really foundational way to look at how your surf program out of the water should be working to maintain the level of your strength and your surf fitness to be able to keep surfing the rest of your life. That's the whole objective. That's everything that I do for myself and my clients and anybody involved at Surf Strong Fit, including yourself that is just listening to this podcast, is to keep you in the water till your last breath. That's the whole objective. We are better versions of ourselves when we're able to connect to the ocean, we're able to surf. So this is the foundational way to look at your program day to day, week to week, month to month, all the way for the rest of your life. It's 3 main areas that you need to focus in. Movement every day. So movement can include surfing. It can include just straight paddling. It can include walking. It can include hiking, all the way up into those activities of much higher metabolic output. Whether you do CrossFit or you do Olympic lifting or you do regular resistance training, that can be within a movement. You need to make sure that you're doing outdoor movement as much as possible. So I surf as my number one thing whenever I can possibly choose that. It's always going to be surfing. After that, surf's blown out, it's flat, I'm mountain biking. I want to be outside and doing that activity. So movement every day of some sort. The other thing that I do a lot now is I do rucking. And rucking is just simply weighted backpack on and you open up the door and walk out it. And what makes that so effective is it's simple. The barriers are very small. It's only you and your mind telling you not to do it that's going to keep you from doing that. You put a weighted backpack on, you go hike around your neighborhood, get some hills in there, and you will be able to push your strength, push your cardio, and it allows your brain space. I don't put headphones on when I'm doing that. I don't even have my phone with me when I'm doing that because I want to focus on just being clear in my head and driving my breath and really focus on regulating my breath in nasal, diaphragmatic, using your diaphragm, breathing. And as my heart rate climbs and I'm really starting to push my cardio, then I'm focusing on my breath and trying to maintain it. It's a great place that's very simple to really balance those 2 things, driving heart rate, using breath to try to regulate your heart rate and recovery as strength and your metabolizing strength with on hills and using more of your muscular strength. That's going to drive your breath. It's a great place in there to just stay focused on that. So those are my top 3 in movement. Surfing number 1, mountain biking, and rucking. Okay, movement every day, breath every day. So a focused breath protocol of some sort every day. So I have clients start out with first breath as you wake. So literally, when your eyes pop open, you focus on 3 to 5 deep nasal diaphragmatic breaths. It's going to key your day on thinking about breath right away. That can carry you through the rest of the day to be much more conscious about your breathing and be present. It can be very powerful. So I use the idea of a perfect breath. Okay, it comes from the book Breath, which I'll try to find the author's name. That's a great book, by the way. Go read, read Breath. I learned so much from that book. And he was a journalist as a background, and he did a lot of some experimentation for himself, and just got some of the science. It's a really nice book to get more in tune with your own breathing. So the idea of perfect breath is 5 to 6 seconds of an inhale, 5 to 6 seconds of an exhale. You're going to get about 5 to 6 liters of oxygen exchange within a minute. That idea is great to focus on when you're stressed. Okay, you become present in your breath. It's a great way to recover in your breath. So you paddle out and you are just scraping to get outside of a set, and you're really breathing, and your heart rate's going, and your blood pressure's going. Sit up on your board and go back into get to perfect breath as soon as you can. So you're going to get back and recover, which is going to make you more efficient. It's going to utilize less of your calories in your session in that front end. You're going to be able to recover and then stay in perfect breath as you have recovered. And so what you're able to do is you're making sure that you're preloading your body with oxygenated blood. It allows you to prepare for the unexpected. So one, set wave comes to you, turn, you get the wave of the day for yourself, and you're ready for it. Two, you turn on a wave and you grab a edge and down to the bottom, you hit the bottom and poof, your lungs are emptied out. If you have preloaded, one, you will have the oxygenated blood in your body to be safe and be there. Two, you know you've just done that, so you're able to stay calm in an unexpected situation and not elevate the risk immediately by struggling or scrambling. So those two things are really crucial. So breath every day, movement every day, breath every day, and mobility every day. Always be able to touch your toes. Okay, that's a general theme that I give everybody, surfers included, but everybody. Always be able to touch your toes. If you can't touch your toes, use that as a target to do something every day to increase your hamstring mobility, your hip mobility, your lower back, shoulders. Be able to touch your toes. So do some form of mobility, obviously, yoga, Pilates, general just range of motion exercises. There's countless amounts of information out there. So those are the 3 things that you focus on every day on some level, and you will have a pretty well balanced, robust surf program to keep surfing for the rest of your life. And then from that, you fine tune and you improve and you make sure that you're continuing to look and identify. And the more you internalize those things for yourself, the more you're able to kind of self-evaluate where you're at, the better position you're going to be to do the things you need to do to really be working on some of those underlying weaknesses or risk of injury areas to keep yourself in that balanced state. Thanks so much for listening. What you can do is, like I said, you can go to surfstrongfit.com/blog. Most of the things I talked about today are up there. If you aren't finding what you're looking for, you can always reach out to me. You can DM me. Pretty much everything, all of the social media channels, I'm at Surf Strong Fit. So just send me a DM. I'm here for people in the community. I'm happy to answer questions. Reach out to me, and I'll help you out. And the last thing is, if you want to apply to work with me directly, the best way to do it is surfstrongfit.com/call. There's a schedule there. I don't have a lot of times in the calendar, but if there's something out there that's not available that you need a different time, again, DM me. We'll start a conversation and I'll see if I can help you. All right, my friends, thanks for listening. I'm Greg Finch. This is the Surf Strong Show. This is the first episode of the Surf Strong Express. I said 20 to 30 minutes. I think we're up to 45 now. So thanks for the questions. I appreciate them. I always love hearing from you guys and being able to help out in specific things that you have going on. And we'll see you next time. Welcome to the Surf Strong Show, conversations for a healthy community. I'm your host, Greg Finch. I'd like to remind you to like, comment, subscribe to this and all of our episodes of the Surf Strong Show wherever you get your podcasts. For all show notes and links that we talk about in the episodes, videos of the podcast, you can go to surfstrongfit.com/podcast for this and all the past episodes. Thanks for joining us. It really means a lot.